Let me tell you something. There is a moment in every person's life when they finally realize that their future is not created by luck, not created by circumstances, not created by what happens around them. It is created by what they choose to do every single day when nobody is watching. And that moment changes everything. Because the greatest difference between those who build extraordinary lives and those who remain trapped in ordinary lives is not intelligence, not education, not where they were born, not how much money they started with. The difference is principles. The difference is understanding the invisible rules that create visible success. Think about this for a moment. Every successful person you admire today was once unknown. Every millionaire was once someone who had an idea, a dream, a desire, but also had doubts, fears, failures, and difficult days. The person who is successful today once sat in a room where nobody believed in them. They once had to make a decision between comfort and growth, a decision between excuses and responsibility, a decision between staying the same and becoming someone greater. And here's what most people don't understand. Wealth is not built first in your bank account. Wealth is built first in your mind. Before a person becomes financially wealthy, they usually become mentally wealthy. They develop the ability to think differently. They develop the ability to delay pleasure. They develop the ability to stay committed when motivation disappears. They develop the ability to keep moving when the results are not visible yet. Because success is not a one-day event. Success is the result of thousands of small decisions repeated over time. I learned something years ago. Your life is not changed by one big decision. Your life is changed by the small decisions you make consistently, the books you read, the people you spend time with, the thoughts you allow into your mind, the habits you repeat, the actions you take when nobody is applauding. Most people want the reward, but they do not want the routine that creates the reward. They want financial freedom, but they do not want financial discipline. They want success, but they do not want the sacrifices that success demands. They want the harvest, but they do not want to plant the seeds. But nature has a law. You cannot harvest tomorrow what you refuse to plant today. A farmer does not put a seed into the ground and complain the next morning that there is no tree. The farmer understands something powerful. Growth takes time. The seed must be protected. The roots must become strong before the tree can stand tall. And your life works the same way. Your habits are your seeds. Your mindset is your soil. Your discipline is the water. And your consistency is the sunlight that allows your potential to grow. Let me tell you about a lesson that many people learn too late. The price of discipline is small compared to the price of regret. You can choose the pain of discipline today, or you can choose the pain of regret tomorrow. Both have a price. Both require sacrifice, but only one gives you a reward. Think about the person who wakes up early every morning while others are sleeping. At first, nobody notices. Nobody celebrates. Nobody gives them a trophy. But slowly, something begins to happen. They become stronger. They become more focused. They become more confident. They become the type of person who keeps promises to themselves. And that is where real success begins. Not when the world recognizes you, but when you recognize yourself. When you look in the mirror and know that you are becoming someone you respect. Because the greatest victory is not defeating someone else. The greatest victory is defeating the weaker version of yourself. The version that makes excuses. The version that quits when things become difficult. The version that says, I will start tomorrow. Tomorrow is one of the most dangerous words in the world because tomorrow feels like a promise. But many times tomorrow becomes a hiding place. People hide their dreams inside tomorrow. They hide their potential inside tomorrow. They hide their greatness inside tomorrow. And then years pass. The dream becomes heavier. The opportunity becomes smaller. The confidence disappears. And one day they look back and ask a painful question. What could my life have become if I had started earlier? That question hurts because there is a special kind of pain that comes from knowing you had potential but never used it. There is a special kind of regret that comes from watching your abilities remain asleep. So understand this. The goal is not to become successful overnight. The goal is to become the type of person who creates success naturally, a person who has discipline, a person who has vision, a person who has patience, a person who understands that every action is a vote for the person they are becoming. Here is the first principle that many wealthy and successful people understand. They take complete responsibility for their lives. They stop blaming. They stop waiting. They stop looking outside themselves for the answer, because the moment you accept responsibility is the moment you take back your power. A person who blames circumstances gives their power away. A person who accepts responsibility takes their power back. Let me tell you something. You cannot control everything that happens to you. You cannot control every challenge. You cannot control every obstacle. You cannot control every person's opinion. But you can control your response. And your response determines your future. Two people can face the same difficulty. One person says, "Why is this happening to me?" Another person says, "What can I learn from this?" One person sees a problem. Another person sees an opportunity. One person becomes a victim. Another person becomes a creator. The circumstance may be the same, but the mindset is completely different. And mindset is where everything begins. Millionaires understand that money follows value. They do not chase money first. They develop themselves. They improve their skills. They solve problems. They create solutions. They become more valuable. And when you become more valuable, opportunities begin to find you. Think about this. A person who improves their knowledge every day becomes more valuable every day. A person who improves their communication becomes more valuable. A person who improves their discipline becomes more valuable. A person who improves their ability to think, create, and solve problems becomes more valuable. Your income rarely grows beyond your personal growth. If you want a bigger life, you must become a bigger person. If you want greater results, you must develop greater abilities. Success is not something you chase. Success is something you attract by becoming prepared, and preparation happens in the quiet moments, the moments nobody sees, the mornings when you choose growth over comfort, the evenings when you choose learning over wasting time, the days when you continue even though the excitement is gone, because motivation is temporary, discipline is permanent. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. Anyone can work hard when they feel inspired. The real question is, who are you when you do not feel inspired? Who are you when nobody is watching? Who are you when progress feels slow? That is where your future is decided. Because champions are not created during easy moments. Champions are created during difficult moments when they choose not to quit. And one of the greatest secrets of wealthy people is understanding the power of the compound effect. Small actions repeated consistently create massive results. A single conversation can change your direction. A single book can change your thinking. A single habit can change your identity. A single decision can change the next 10 years of your life. Never underestimate small beginnings. A tiny seed becomes a giant tree. A small step becomes a long journey. A small improvement every day becomes a completely different person over time. The problem is, people underestimate what they can achieve in years because they overestimate what they can achieve in days. They want instant results. They want immediate success. But greatness is built slowly. The strongest foundations are built underground before the building rises above the surface. And sometimes your life is exactly like that. You may not see progress yet. You may not see the results yet. You may not see the reward yet. But that does not mean nothing is happening, the roots are growing, the foundation is becoming stronger. The person you are becoming is being created through every choice you make today. And there is another principle that separates successful people from everyone else. And there is another principle that separates successful people from everyone else. They understand the power of protecting their mind, because your mind is the greatest asset you will ever own. Before you build a business, you must build yourself. Before you create wealth, you must create wisdom. Before you change your circumstances, you must change the way you think about your circumstances. Let me tell you something. A person can have all the opportunities in the world, but if their mind is not prepared, they will not recognize those opportunities. And another person can start with almost nothing. But if their mind is trained, disciplined, and focused, they can create something extraordinary. Your thoughts are the architects of your future. Every decision you make begins as a thought. Every action you take begins as a belief. Every habit you develop begins as a choice. And those choices, repeated over time, become your life. Think about this for a moment. If someone could look at your daily routine, your conversations, your habits, and your thoughts, could they predict your future? Because the truth is, your future is not a mystery. Your future is hidden inside your daily actions. If you spend every day feeding your mind with negativity, distraction, and excuses, eventually your life will reflect that. But if you spend every day feeding your mind with knowledge, discipline, and purpose, your life will begin to transform. You cannot put garbage into your mind every day and expect greatness to come out. You cannot surround yourself with people who constantly complain and expect yourself to develop an extraordinary mindset. You cannot spend hours consuming things that weaken your focus and then wonder why your dreams feel impossible. The environment around you matters. The conversations around you matter. The information you allow into your mind matters, because your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, you will eventually grow. Plant fear, and fear grows. Plant doubt, and doubt grows. Plant excuses, and excuses grow. But plant confidence, discipline, knowledge, and belief. And something powerful begins to happen. You start becoming someone different. Someone who does not need constant motivation. Someone who does not need everyone's approval. Someone who wakes up with a mission. Someone who understands that their life has meaning and that every day is an opportunity to become better. I learned something years ago. Successful people are not successful because they have more hours in their day. Everyone gets 24 hours. The difference is what they do with those hours. Some people use their time to escape their problems. Successful people use their time to solve their problems. Some people spend their evenings trying to forget their future. Successful people spend their evenings building their future. Some people ask, how can I avoid difficulty? Successful people ask, how can I become stronger through difficulty? Because difficulty is not always the enemy. Sometimes difficulty is the teacher. Sometimes the hardest seasons of your life are developing the strongest version of yourself. The pressure you experience today may be preparing you for the responsibility you will carry tomorrow. A diamond is created under pressure. A muscle grows through resistance. A strong character is built through challenges. And yet, so many people run from the very things that could make them stronger. They run from discomfort. They run from failure. They run from criticism. They run from the unknown, but every successful person eventually learns this lesson. Comfort is a beautiful place to visit, but it is a terrible place to build a future. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. Your dreams live outside your comfort zone. Your next level lives outside your comfort zone. Let me share a story with you. There was a young man who had a dream of creating a better life for himself. He did not come from wealth. He did not have powerful connections. He did not have everything figured out, but he had one thing. He had a decision that he was no longer going to let his past control his future. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, not because it was easy. It was difficult. There were mornings when his bed felt more comfortable. There were mornings when his mind created reasons to quit. There were mornings when nobody would have known if he stayed asleep. But he made a promise to himself, a promise that he would become the person his future required. So he studied, he learned, he improved his skills, he made mistakes, he failed. But every failure became a lesson. Every mistake became experience. Every challenge became training. Years later, people looked at his success and called him lucky. But they did not see the early mornings. They did not see the sacrifices. They did not see the moments when he wanted to quit but continued anyway. They only saw the result. And that is one of the biggest misunderstandings about success. People admire the mountain, but they rarely understand the climb. They see the success story, but they do not see the struggle behind the story. They see the achievement, but they do not see the years of preparation. Let me tell you something. The world rewards results, but character is built during the process. The person you become while chasing success is often more valuable than the success itself, because money can be lost. Achievements can disappear. Titles can change. But the discipline, wisdom, confidence, and character you develop cannot be easily taken away. This is why successful people focus on becoming better, not just getting more. They understand that if they become stronger, they can handle greater opportunities. If they become wiser, they can make better decisions. If they become more disciplined, they can create better results. Your life expands when you expand. Your income expands when your ability expands. Your opportunities expand when your preparation expands. So stop asking only, what can I get? Start asking, who do I need to become? Because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the person you bring into each situation. A person with poor habits will struggle even with great opportunities. A person with strong habits can create opportunities even in difficult situations. That is why habits matter so much. Your habits are shaping your identity every single day. When you wake up early, you are not just waking up early. You are proving to yourself that you are someone who keeps commitments. When you exercise, you are not just training your body. You are training your discipline. When you read, you are not just gaining information. You are expanding the possibilities of your future. When you save money, you are not just keeping currency. You are building self-control. Small actions create identity. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates results. And results create your future. Think about this. The person you become 5 years from now will be determined by the choices you make today. Not once. Not occasionally. Repeatedly. The secret is not finding one perfect moment. The secret is creating thousands of imperfect moments where you choose progress over comfort, because success is not about perfection. Success is about consistency. A person who takes one step every day will eventually travel farther than the person who waits for the perfect time to begin. There will never be a perfect time. There will always be challenges. There will always be reasons to delay. There will always be distractions competing for your attention. The question is not whether obstacles will appear. The question is who you will become when they appear. Will you become someone who breaks under pressure, or someone who becomes stronger because of pressure? Will you become someone who complains about the difficulty, or someone who uses the difficulty as fuel? Because every challenge is asking you a question. Who are you? And your response is written through your actions, not your intentions, not your wishes, not your promises, your actions. Anyone can talk about success. Anyone can dream about success. Anyone can say they want a better life, but the person who builds the better life is the person who acts when action is uncomfortable. The person who continues when results are slow. The person who believes before there is evidence. The person who understands that every great achievement begins with a belief that looks impossible to others. And this is where another powerful principle begins to separate ordinary thinking from extraordinary thinking. And this is where another powerful principle begins to separate ordinary thinking from extraordinary thinking. Extraordinary people understand that belief comes before achievement. Most people want proof before they believe. They want to see the result before they take the first step. They want certainty before they begin. But life does not work that way. Every great achievement begins with someone believing in something that does not exist yet. Before there was a successful company, there was an idea. Before there was a finished building, there was a vision. Before there was a person everyone admired, there was a person nobody noticed. The beginning of greatness always looks small, and that is why so many people miss their opportunity. They underestimate small beginnings. They look at where they are today and compare it to where they want to be tomorrow. They become discouraged because the distance feels too large. But they forget one important truth. Every giant tree was once a seed. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a student. Every successful person was once someone trying, failing, learning, and trying again. Let me tell you something. The person who wins in life is not always the person who starts with the most advantages. Many times, it is the person who refuses to surrender. The person who keeps learning, the person who keeps improving, the person who continues walking even when the road becomes difficult. Because success is often less about talent and more about endurance. There are many talented people who never reach their potential because they quit too early. There are many intelligent people who never create something meaningful because they cannot stay consistent. There are many people with great ideas who never see their ideas become reality because they were waiting for perfect conditions. But successful people understand something different. They understand that action creates clarity. You do not always find confidence before you start. Sometimes you find confidence because you started. You do not always find courage before you face the challenge. Sometimes courage is created by facing the challenge. You do not always know the entire path before you begin walking. Sometimes the path reveals itself step by step. Think about this for a moment. When a person learns to walk as a child, they do not stand up perfectly on the first attempt. They fall, they struggle, they lose balance, but they keep trying. Imagine if a child said, "I fell 3 times. Maybe walking is not for me." Imagine if every human being gave up after their first failure. We would never discover what we are capable of. Yet, somewhere along the journey of life, many people forget that same lesson. They fail once and call themselves failures. They experience rejection and decide they are not worthy. They face difficulty and assume they are on the wrong path. But failure is not